depends on what injuries do to a young athlete's potentially promising career. I think the way sport is organized today, at least in the countries where I've been engaged, is a little bit a survival of the fittest approach. And obviously, if you have a ton of talents, that approach can and will lead to somebody becoming number one. But if you have fewer talents, like we do in Norway, we are really concerned that we are losing some of our most talented athletes too early. Of course, one of the most devastating things that can happen to a young athlete who is aspiring to go on the world stage and become a star is an injury at a critical time. And at the Norwegian Olympic Training Center, we see young athletes with serious injuries, unfortunately, all the time. Yet at the same time, I think a challenge like that can also be seen as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to look at the training program the athlete has used up to that point. And it's always an opportunity to focus on things that you could not focus on because you were too busy playing your sport. So let's say it's a knee injury. Well, you can double your efforts on upper body strength or core strength or whatever else it is the other skills that you need to develop as an athlete. And often a serious injury, even if it seems to be at a critical time, can be used to the long-term success of the athlete if it's used in the right way. I honestly think that doctors and physios and medical staff have no role in predicting the future success of an athlete or an ID program. And in fact, again, referring to what we do at the Norwegian Olympic Training Center, where we do foster a number of Olympic athletes who are very, very successful. We have in our organization, we make a clear distinction between the health department and the development and fitness department. So basically we say anything to do with performance, that's your role. Anything to do with health and everything to do with health is our role. We work together to keep athletes healthy, but we think it's critically important that our perspective as doctors is solely on the health, future and current health of the athlete and not on performance. So one of the biggest concerns that we have in our youth development programs is injuries and other health problems in this young population. And sports are organized differently around the world, but in our program there is a very large number of young people who at the age of 15, 16 enter high performance school programs where they combine an academic program with hard training. So they train every morning, they train every afternoon, and then they have school in between. This has helped develop a whole bunch of international stars. Yet at the same time, we see that this program also has killed the careers of some very talented athletes. And we think that one of the biggest problems with our program is that the biggest talent in the group is very attractive for everyone. So he or she will play for the school team, will play for the club team, will maybe play up. So maybe a 17-year-old will play with the 19-year-olds, play with the junior national team, the youth national team, and sometimes even if it's an extremely talented athlete, even with the senior national team. And often the competition and training program for these athletes are simply crazy, and there's no one taking responsibility for the most talented athletes. And there is another reason, a very important reason, why the talented athletes may be at greatest risk of injury, and that is simply the fact that they perform better than the others. So if you have a group of volleyball players and you ask them all to jump 100 times, then some of them will hardly jump at all, but some will jump really high. So the training load across the team is going to be very, very different. And in fact, in one of the studies that we have done in Norway on young volleyball players shows that in a team, same age, same fitness level, that the players who are the most talented in volleyball, this is the kids that can really jump well, have a much, much higher risk of developing patellar tendinopathy than those who do not jump that high. In fact, our data showed, I believe, that for every centimeter a player jumps higher than his teammate, the risk doubles. So imagine someone who jumps 10 centimeters higher than the other players on the team has a tremendously higher risk of developing an injury, simply because every time they jump, they load their body much more than all the others. So it's the combination of these two things, that the talents are being pulled by all the coaches for all the teams, and there's no coordination between them, so they get to play and they love to play, so they want this, they're going to want to be in on all these opportunities that they're given, and at the same time they're the ones who run fastest, jump highest, throw hardest. So every game they play is much harder on their body than on the teammate who doesn't have that same talent for jumping or running or throwing. Yeah, so load monitoring and load control is critically important in this young group. And it's difficult. There's not an easy fix to this. Imagine the handball player who has 4 different coaches because he or she plays on 4 different teams. And every year they move between teams and between classes, and they get new teachers in school and so on. So we think that the most important approach to try to deal with this issue is to educate the player and their parents, possibly, to become what I would say mature athletes at a much younger age, working on skills like goal setting, so they'd realize that it's not this year and the results next week that matter, it's those a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, to make them more patient and be able to then say, no, I don't think, coach, that it's a good idea for me to play that game tomorrow because I played 3 games on another team earlier this week, and for the parents to be supportive of this. So we simply, I think the only solution is to get the players themselves to take responsibility for their career, educate them so they can do this at a much earlier stage. And we're now working in Norway with the elite sports school system, within the school system, to put a curriculum around these issues of long-term goal setting, load monitoring, and so on, so that they learn to use these tools and reflect over total load already at the age of 13, 14, when they enter the first grade in these elite sports school systems.